The silence before the explosion is always the most dangerous. There are moments when the air seems to carry an invisible tension, as if time itself is holding its breath. You feel it in your skin, even if you can't explain it. A slight but constant pressure that announces something greater about to break. The clock doesn't stop. And when it marks an invisible limit, anyone who isn't paying attention will be swallowed by the tide. The stakes are high. It's like walking on thin ice, hearing the crackling beneath your feet. One false step, and everything shatters, revealing unforgiving icy waters. But there's also the chance to break through, and on the other side, find clarity that changes everything. The difference between falling or crossing lies in seeing what many insist on ignoring. Some call it destiny, others a warning. I call it a dividing line. Because there's a precise moment when life divides into before and after. This moment doesn't arrive with an official warning, it doesn't send an invitation. It simply happens, and those who aren't awake lose the chance to choose. Have you ever noticed how a single revelation can turn an entire world upside down? The urgency is real. Not because of empty alarm, but because there's an invisible countdown pushing each of us. A hidden truth doesn't stay hidden forever. When it decides to emerge, it comes like a high wave, shattering what seemed solid. And 3 of these waves are already forming, ready to hit those least expecting it hard. Think about it. What happens when the wall that holds up your reality shows its first crack? Do you close your eyes and pretend you didn't see it? Or do you face the fissure and discover what lies beyond? This is the silent choice everyone makes, even without realizing it. This is where the metaphor becomes flesh. Living without sight is like walking through a dark room full of broken mirrors. Every step risks a cut, every movement echoes unclearly. But when the light comes on, even for a second, you see the exit that was always there. What if that moment of clarity was marked for you, and the deadline was now? Have you ever noticed how certain truths don't arrive clearly, but rather like silent cracks that grow unnoticed? First, a subtle detail that almost goes unnoticed. Then, another, clearer sign. Until, suddenly, everything that seemed solid begins to shatter before your eyes. It's at that moment that your heart races, not just out of fear, but because you sense that a revelation is about to sweep through your life. When the body perceives before the mind, breathing changes. Air comes in too fast, comes out in fragments, as if trying to keep up with something that doesn't yet have a name. This is how many people live, as if they're running through a dark maze, guided only by the instinct to survive, never seeing the exit. But there's a key hidden in this chaos. And when it's found, nothing remains the same. Perhaps you've experienced this feeling, sitting in silence, and suddenly feeling something invisible way down the room. A presence, a memory, a call that can't be ignored. In those moments, reality seems to demand a choice. It's not the distant future, it's now, here, pulsing in your skin. It's as if each heartbeat is a drumbeat marking the countdown. The conflict is both inside and outside. Inside, because every thought tries to seek answers that don't yet exist. Outside, because the world keeps turning, demanding quick decisions, forcing paths. And in this friction, in this pressure, many get lost. Some try to silence the restlessness, others distract it with noise. But few have the courage to remain silent, to listen to the voice that whispers behind the confusion. It is in this place that revelation begins to take shape. That's why so many people choose to stay here, following each revelation. Because they feel it's not entertainment, but a mirror that reflects something intimate, something that was always there. As if each word were a thread tugging at the memory of who you truly are, before all the distractions. And if you allow yourself to delve deeper, you'll notice that what seemed like mere curiosity becomes a necessity. Because ignoring these signs is no longer possible. They keep calling, keep knocking on the doors of consciousness. And what comes next may be what finally stitches together all these loose pieces into a pattern you can't yet fully see. There comes a point when silence ceases to be rest and becomes a threat. It's when the mind insists on convincing itself that everything is under control, but the body betrays otherwise. Shoulders stiffen, breath shallows, heart pounding as if trying to escape its own prison. In this interval, every detail takes on a different weight. A creaking door, a shifting glance, an unspoken word. Everything seems to carry secrets, and every small signal becomes a muffled scream. It is on this unstable terrain that life reveals its most hidden layers. What seemed like a simple routine hides subterranean currents that move destiny. A choice postponed, a decision made on impulse, a silence kept for too long. What was once merely an inconvenience becomes a real threat. Because the truth that finds no space to emerge creates cracks, and from these cracks arise abysses. The contrast is inevitable. There are moments when a spark of hope ignites, a moment of calm, a fond memory, a feeling that perhaps everything will work out. But soon the shadow returns, denser, closer, as if demanding something that can no longer be ignored. It's a constant interplay between light and darkness, where each breath of relief is followed by a cold wind that cuts through the skin. Imagine walking down a narrow corridor, lit only by a faint flame. The walls seem to close in, the air grows heavier, the sound of your own footsteps echoes like hammering. You feel something accompanying you, not in front, not behind, but beside you, invisible. Each breath is a choice between moving forward or stopping and facing what insists on hiding. The urgency grows because, deep down, you know that revelation won't wait for your permission to reveal itself. When it comes, it will come like lightning splitting the night, without asking permission. And the question remains, will you be ready to see the clarity that can simultaneously blind and liberate? And then, in the middle of the narrow corridor where the flame wavers, something changes. It's not just darkness trying to swallow the light, but a different, almost gentle presence, suggesting that not every shadow is an enemy. The heart still beats rapidly, but between one pulse and the next, there's a gap where calm creeps in. It's in this gap that one realizes that tension isn't just a threat, it's also an invitation. A call to look beyond fear and realize that even discomfort holds a hidden meaning. Perhaps you've experienced something similar. That moment when a painful conversation brought an unexpected truth, and even though it hurt, you knew you needed to hear it. Or that day when everything seemed to be falling apart, but the very fall revealed solid ground you never would have found if you'd remained blind. Life sometimes delivers revelations wrapped in pain because it's the only way to ensure they don't go unnoticed. It is in this ambiguous space, between shock and relief, that the chance to see differently arises. The same narrow corridor that once seemed suffocating can be seen as a passage, not a prison. The fragile flame, which seemed about to go out, can be seen as a guide, not a threat. With each choice to look from a different angle, a new ray of meaning opens, and what seemed like condemnation begins to reveal itself as possibility. Many describe this moment as a tightness in the chest that turns into a breath, a weight that suddenly doesn't disappear, but shifts. It stops being a crushing stone and becomes a supporting step. It's then that some feel the urge to support this journey, leaving a silent sign that the message has touched them, like lighting a candle next to a flickering flame. A small gesture, but one that reinforces the light against the darkness. What if all this isn't just metaphor? What if every pause, every breath, every shadow faced is part of a preparation for something greater, still waiting on the horizon? It's this possibility that remains suspended, like a note vibrating in the air, waiting for the next chord that can transform silence into revelation. But what happens when the flame that seemed like a guide also reveals the walls you didn't want to see? The light, however small, doesn't just show the exit, it also exposes the marks, the cracks, the traces of all that was hidden. It's at that moment that the revelation stops being just a promise of liberation and becomes a mirror of everything you tried to avoid. The narrow corridor holds not only a passage, but memories that whisper, shadows that carry the weight of what was left behind. And yet, there's something precious in this discomfort. Because every scar that appears in the light is also proof of survival. Fear says, "Look what you've lost." But hope responds, "Look what's still in your hands." The contrast intensifies, a heart that beats faster in the face of uncertainty, yet at the same time expands in the face of the possibility of a future that can be born precisely from this vulnerability. Imagine the sound of footsteps echoing in this space. Each thud against the floor is almost a question. Do you continue or retreat? The silence between footsteps is so dense it seems to speak louder than the movement itself. The body hesitates, but there's an invisible force pushing forward, as if the very air were permeated with a promise yet to be revealed. It's at this point that time seems to bend. The past casts its shadows, recalling falls, mistakes, and losses. The future beckons like a hazy horizon, uncertain, yet irresistible. And in the present, a tenuous thread stretches, supporting the weight of it all. It's a delicate balance, like crossing a suspension bridge in the dark. With each step, the risk of falling. but also the chance to cross to a terrain where something greater awaits. The heart knows before the mind. You know something is about to unfold. It's not just about walking down a corridor lit by a faint flame. It's about sensing that behind that last bend lies something capable of completely changing the meaning of the journey. And it's precisely because you don't know what awaits you that you hold your breath, as if the whole world were bracing for an impact that hasn't yet arrived. There's a moment when the light not only reveals, but also wounds. The flame that once seemed like solace now draws on the walls the silhouettes of everything that was avoided. Shadows aren't just the absence of light, but memories that take shape, secrets that refuse to remain hidden. And it's in this clash that the dilemma arises. Move toward the unknown or retreat to the false security of darkness. Every detail gains intensity. The distant echo sounds like a voice, the chill in the air mingles with fear, and even one's heart seems torn between racing to escape or beating slowly to listen. It's like standing at an invisible fork in the road. On one side, the vertigo of losing what remains. On the other, the audacity to conquer what has never been touched. Some say hope is a double-edged blade, because it warms and guides, but it also cuts, reminding us how much we can still lose. The same glow that illuminates the path reveals the fragility of each step. It's like walking on glass, transparent, beautiful, but capable of shattering at any moment. Yet there's a silent force that insists on keeping the body moving. Images alternate within the mind. A memory of laughter emerges like a ray of sunlight through the cracks, only to be swallowed by a wave of heavy silence soon after. The contrast is almost cruel. Light and shadow fight for every inch, as if testing how much you can endure. And yet, in this back and forth, something grows. A realization that the journey isn't just about reaching the end, but about traversing this field of opposites without getting lost. Tension builds like a breath caught in your throat. The air feels thicker, time slows, each second laden with foreboding. You know something is lurking, that there are more layers beyond what has already been revealed. And yet, you remain suspended on this threshold, as if waiting for the next breath capable of transforming darkness into revelation. Each step forward begins to leave its mark not only on the narrow floor, but also within you. It's as if each breath rearranges the invisible pieces of a board that once seemed immutable. What was once merely a feeling now begins to translate into consequences. Conversations that change tone, decisions that sound bolder, glances that capture something that previously went unnoticed. The world reacts, even when you don't announce it out loud. The subtlest transformations are the most impressive. A seemingly small choice alters the entire path, like a stone thrown into a lake, sending ripples in unimaginable directions. What seemed like just a pause, a moment of silence, opens space for a greater movement. And it is in this contrast between minimal effort and profound return that perception expands. Suddenly, it's not just about walking, it's about realizing that every gesture, every thought, every breath is also a code etched into the space around us. The dilemma persists. The same light that guides also exposes, and with each revelation a new weight emerges. But something is different now. It's no longer just fear or uncertainty, but also the feeling that risk can become construction. As if life were demanding not only the courage to cross over, but also the responsibility to deal with what will be found on the other side. And at this point, tension ceases to be a threat and becomes fertile ground for conscious choices. It's impossible not to feel that there's an invisible thread connecting everything, as if each action triggers a chain reaction that reaches far beyond the immediate reach. The simple act of looking deeper already generates change. And each person who realizes this discovers within themselves a reflection of themselves. That's why so many, upon arriving here, feel the urge to record a thought, a word, almost like a silent signal that something has touched them. Even so, breath remains held. Because, despite the consequences already evident, there's the certainty that there's something greater still hidden, waiting to be revealed with an impact that could change the entire meaning of the journey. The ripples that began small now spread like circles across the surface of the water, reaching places you'd never imagine. Every gesture, every decision that seemed small, begins to have larger effects, as if the space around you itself were adjusting to respond. The air seems denser, charged with hidden meanings. It's like walking into a room where every movement casts a new shadow, every breath projects a new image onto the invisible walls. And amidst this play of reflexes, the strange sensation arises that nothing goes unnoticed. Silence observes. Time records. Life itself seems to test every choice, as if asking, "How far are you willing to go?" There are moments when clarity is so intense it's blinding, revealing possibilities that bring immediate relief. But soon after, an obstacle appears, as if to test your resolve before allowing the next step. This alternation creates a rhythm that challenges the heart. Hope and challenge walk side by side, like two travelers who never part. When hope stretches like an open horizon, the challenge appears to remind us that the journey is not a gift, but an achievement. And when the challenge seems too heavy, hope returns like a ray of light breaking through a dense cloud, reminding us that the path still exists, even when our feet falter. Internal images intensify. It's like crossing a suspension bridge, feeling the wind sway each rope, the ground vibrate with every step, the void below ready to swallow any carelessness. But there's also the view of the other side, an open, illuminated field, where silence doesn't weigh, but welcomes. This duality is what keeps the body alert and the mind expanding. Because it's not just about crossing, but accepting that risk is an inseparable part of discovery. And although the signs have already become strong, there's a sense that the essential remains hidden. Something lurks, larger and deeper than anything that has yet been revealed. It's like standing before a huge door that pulses, as if breathing, waiting for the moment when it will finally open to reveal what lies hidden within. The door before you isn't just wood or metal. It pulses as if it had its own heart, emitting a barely perceptible breath, as if breathing silently. Each time your chest expands, the sensation is that the entire space responds, as if there were an invisible connection between what's outside and what vibrates within. Time seems to stretch in that instant, and the weight becomes denser than any wall. It's curious how the light that escapes through the cracks isn't constant. At times, it's bright and welcoming, like a sunny morning promising relief. At others, it wavers and fades, leaving only a heavy shadow that seems to push back. This interplay of light and darkness provokes a whirlwind of feelings, confidence that grows in the chest, soon followed by doubts that whisper insistently. Each contrast shapes a new territory, as if the journey were more internal than external. Images take shape in your mind. You find yourself touching the cold surface of the door, feeling the vibration that runs through your palm. It's like touching destiny itself and realizing it hasn't yet decided whether to open or remain closed. Behind it may be space or abyss, peace or vertigo. Uncertainty weighs heavily, but it also attracts, like a magnet that won't let you move away. The progress thus far has already left its mark. The waves of change have reached deep places, revealing how each step alters not only the path, but also those who walk it. Still, the challenge remains unabated. The wind blows in gusts, bringing memories of past falls, memories that try to convince us that perhaps it would be better to retreat. But there's something in our breathing that insists on staying strong, as if each breath were a silent pact with what is yet to come. And so, the tension builds like a taut rope about to snap. The heart knows the revelation cannot be delayed for long. The entire body senses something preparing to cross that threshold, something capable of reshaping not only the journey, but its very meaning. It hasn't yet fully revealed itself, but its proximity is undeniable, like the thunder that announces a storm even before the first drop falls. And when the door finally opens, there is no explosion, no deafening noise. There is silence. A silence so profound it seems to swallow everything, and in this emptiness what emerges is not fear, but clarity. What was once merely tension reveals itself as passage, and each step forward is like crossing an invisible threshold, where the air shifts, the light changes, even the weight of the body itself feels different. It is in that moment that one realizes, the crossing was never just about reaching something out there, but about recognizing the change already happening within. The sensation is of witnessing something rare, as if invited to witness a secret not available to everyone. Each image gains clarity. The dark corridor now opens into a wide space. The heart that once raced now finds a steady rhythm, the fragile flame transformed into a serene fire that illuminates without wavering. It's impossible not to feel the contrast between what was left behind and what now reveals itself, as if two worlds coexist and you've crossed the border. Challenges, once so threatening, become stepping stones that sustain us. The fear that paralyzed us is reconfigured into a guiding force. The doubt that gnawed at us transforms into genuine curiosity. It is in this clash of perspectives that true achievement is born. Not the absence of obstacles, but the discovery that each one carries within itself the seed of transformation. And perhaps that's why so many feel the need to leave a sign, a comment, a word that marks this experience, like someone carving their own name in living stone to remember they were here, that they made it through. Liking, sharing, and staying close isn't just support. It's part of the ritual of those who understand that this journey expands when not undertaken alone. It's like extending the flame forward, so that others can also see the passage hidden in the darkness. What remains, in the end, is not just the memory of a door that opened, but the certainty that something within you also opened with it. The privilege lies not only in having seen, but in having felt. Because the revelation doesn't end with the scene described. It continues to breathe within those who embraced it, like a promise that each new pause, each new silence, can bring another unexpected light. And it is precisely this continuity that transforms the journey into belonging, as if destiny itself had whispered in your ear. You were in the right place, at the right time, and that's why you're no longer the same.